Hello, Waterdown and Viola Desmond. Miss Vanderwall and I wanted to come and see the old Durham Road Cemetery to see what it looks like in 2020. And it's a beautiful space here at the corner of what once was a farm that in 1930 plowed this cemetery up, took the tombstones. We don't know where those tombstones are, or history has lost those tombstones, all but 4, and I'll show you the 4 that they found, and turned this into a potato patch. You can see, thanks to work by local activists, in 1989, the cemetery was restored, and it is still here. It's very well cared for, and there's this wonderful new monument that they've built. That's the old schoolhouse. So this cemetery was the cemetery for a black community called Priceville that existed here for 30 years until settlers arrived from other parts of the world and pushed them off the land because they were black. And because they weren't here to watch over the land, those black settlers, the cemetery here fell into disrepair and eventually was plowed over. This monument stone here has been erected to tell people about the space. Some nice benches here, and right here is the is a covered area where they have placed the 4 tombstones that survive. There are over 80 people that are buried here, but only 4 tombstones have been recovered. So we have James Handy, we have Christopher Simons, James Washington, and Ellen Handy. And the ceiling is embedded into the ceiling are the names of the settlers' families. And amongst the names are these wonderful fiber optic symbols that depict symbols from those settlers' stories. And one of them I noticed are shackles. Outside of the space, we have the original monument stone. It was placed here in 1990, and it was dedicated by Lincoln Alexander, the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. He was the first black Lieutenant Governor in Canadian history. He's an amazing man, and for those of you that know the Hamilton area, the link is named after him. He's a Hamilton resident, or was a Hamilton resident. He passed, I believe, about 10 years ago. And I can see here, here's evidence that the cemetery is still well cared for. Somebody is preparing these garden beds here, starting to plant some flowers and weed out the area, and also pick out some of the stones. So here in these rolling hills of Grey County, it's a really good lesson about who gets to tell the stories and what histories we learn about. There were people here. There were black settlers here that lived here for 30 years, and their story was virtually erased, plowed over, and their tombstones likely used to line nearby basements and horse stalls. Only 4 remain. How many of these old Durham Road cemeteries exist across southern Ontario and Canada, but aren't marked, that have been lost to history? What's happened to their stories? And this takes us to ideas of systemic violence, privilege, and the stories that come from the land. We're also standing on Indigenous territory. We're close to the Saugeen Nation, other Ojibwa nations. The Huron Nation was here as well, and their stories have been largely ignored up until just recently. So that's what Ms. Vanderwall and I want you to be thinking about as we walk through this space, is who gets to tell these stories, and how many stories have been ignored. But today it is a beautiful spot here at the old Durham Road Cemetery, and we think of those families that for such a long time their voices, their stories were silent.